Deathstorm was one of the 3 big bads in Season 8. I'm discussing whether or not I like the villain Deathstorm in the show, and what I think it could have been different, should things have been different, give me my full opinions about the character and the story arc of Deathstorm that we had in the show. Feel free to leave your opinions in the comments down below. Thank you for watching. Enjoy this video. To jump right into it, was Deathstorm a good villain? I believe for Season 8, he was. I believe Deathstorm was only dragged out by 1 episode purely because the bear we had in Season 8, we needed powerful threats. And well, you bring in someone Barry can't touch. We had Deathstorm, we had Thawne, and we had negative forces. Again, at the end of the season, I think Deathstorm was that perfect, takeaway from Armageddon and negative forces. Even though it was like the worst arc of the season, it wasn't the worst arc of the series or anywhere near that. I know a lot of people criticize the Deathstorm arc because Barry didn't stop Deathstorm. It was a Frost who stopped him, and I'm going to be talking about that later on in this video. But I do think it's important to point out that, again, Barry was powerful as hell in this Season 8. He was the most powerful he's ever been in the series, was in Season 8. And Deathstorm is one of those villains that CW made from the comics, but kind of made him way more powerful than he ever was, which is making him untouchable. Barry threw lightning at the guy, and it didn't even affect him at all. You name a villain that's ever had that happen to, besides maybe the Forces. But Deathstorm was going directly after Caitlin and Frost because it was Ronnie looking for his bride. He was sick of being alone, like most people on this planet, and really just wanted to, find his bride. And him killing people, feeding his grief, he made him powerful. They explained that. And so I do think Deathstorm was a good villain for when he had him, which again I'll be talking about in a minute or two from now, more in depth about that. But I do generally think Deathstorm was a good villain. I do think he's overhated. I think he's just overhated, honestly. I think he was overused by 1 episode, but other than that, I think it was a very good story arc. Did Deathstorm arrive too late? I kind of already talked about this. I think Deathstorm worked perfectly for Season 8. Now, if he appeared in Season 4, or 5, or 6, or 7, I don't know how the writing would have went, because they probably would have nerfed the crap out of Deathstorm to kind of make it a working villain, especially if it was like a season-long villain. I don't know, Deathstorm definitely wouldn't have worked as a season-long villain, like Season 4 or 5, or really Season 6. Even when we had 2 graphic novels, I think Deathstorm would have been way too dragged out. I think having Deathstorm for a minimal graphic novel across 6 episodes, I think it was, or maybe 5. No, it definitely wasn't 5. I think it was 6. It definitely worked better than half a season of Deathstorm. And so, it worked perfectly for Season 8 because how powerful Barry was. And I do think the writing genuinely upticked in Season 8 compared to Season 3 through 7 and comparatively to 9. Season 8, the writing upheld throughout majority of the season, even across the side characters, whether you like them or not, it did actually, and it kept getting more consistent. It didn't dip for any of them. Whereas Season 3 through 7 had major problems, Season 9 had major problems. So Season 8, whether you like it or not, you can't lie, you can't not admit that Season 8's consistency was very, very good. The writing was upheld, at least for consistency standards, throughout a majority of Season 8, and that's something that the show never had, even its 2 best seasons of the show, Season 1, Season 2. So, again, to sum it up, I don't think Deathstorm arrived late. I think he arrived on time, but if they had made Barry more powerful like Season 4, or maybe bring him in Season 5, but even then, probably would have been a better villain than Cicada. But, I don't think a season-long film for Deathstorm would have worked. I think it only worked for a graphic novel, and that format came from Eric Wallace, not Todd Helping. Therefore, I don't think he arrived too late. I think they did it just in time. And also having it like an 8-year-long story arc being wrapped up, I think it worked out perfectly because it added more to why Ronnie wanted Caitlin to turn to another Deathstorm version of Deathstorm, I should say, and just overall, it really just did work. Was Deathstorm too powerful? As I said already earlier in the video, Barry threw lightning at Deathstorm and it didn't even affect him. He didn't even he just kept walking. He didn't stop or anything. And, Deathstorm does a clap and he's burning everybody with grief. And again, Barry literally couldn't touch him. So, I do think that, again, for season 8 Barry, it worked because Barry still tried to do something. You know, and we saw him literally riding on his own lightning to try to save Caitlin. I mean, I never thought in a million years I'd ever see the Flash do that, but here we are with that scene from 8/12. I believe it was 8/12. Yeah, it was 8/12. You know, and I think that just shows to show how powerful Barry really is. And, you know, if this has happened in season 4 or 5, Barry would have given up and not done anything at all. And I'm going to be going into the final fight in a couple minutes here. But I do generally think that Deathstorm was powerful for the exact reason that they made him powerful so that you can match Barry's powers and Barry's levels. Because that's literally the only reason that this was even in season 8. I believe he was in season 8 now. I don't know if it's confirmed or not. But because they needed a powerful villain. We already had Despero. We're having Thawne come back at the end of the season and in Armageddon. We're having the Enforcers come back in a negative way, pun intended. How do we fill in this gap? I think they just chose Deathstorm purely because you need a powerful threat. Here you go. And we did learn that in season 10, assuming they got season 10, which they didn't, for the record, you know, it would have led to a much bigger arc for Deathstorm and Barry and the Arrowverse. It would have led to the Blackest Night Corps, which probably would introduce John Diggle's Green Lantern, and then so many other things that would have been insane to see. Obviously, we don't get the opportunity now, which sucks, but I think that's what they're all kind of leaning up towards. So season 8 will be that season where we set up all these different stories so they can just keep on continuing. Maybe that's what I talked for there. It's 7 a.m., so give me a break. But I do genuinely believe that this film had a bigger purpose in the Arrowverse. We just think of the opportunity to see it unfold, which does kind of suck if you think about it. But again, was it too powerful for season 8? No. You know, I do think they powered him the hell up for Barry, which worked. I mean, what do you tell the fast man alive is more powerful he's ever been to a villain who you can't stop, literally. I mean, you can't touch him. You can outrun him, we saw that, but you can't touch him, he can't do anything to him. So what do? You don't know. But Barry keeps trying. That's who the Flash is. I'm glad they showed that. Which, this is going to lead directly into my main point, which is, should they have found a way to Barry defeat Deathstorm? Again, how? I mean, the only way I could possibly think that Barry could possibly even have a chance against Deathstorm was if, I don't know. I mean, if the Green Lantern Corps or the Blue Lantern Corps was a thing, give Barry that Blue Lantern ring and have him go fight him. I mean, I guess that'd be the only way, right? But even then, we don't even know if the Lantern rings would actually help Barry here. But also, I mean, actually, that'd be kind of cool to see the the Blue Lantern Flash suit, which I've made several edits over, by the way, if you didn't know that. But, it would have been nice to see that at one point, but, whatever. But the matter of the fact is that, when you think about Barry season 8, again, like I brought up like 4 times already, he was really powerful. I mean, he's not going to be able to stop every single villain, and this is one of the villains that Frost needed to stop. It worked. He was Cold Fusion. Now, could Frost possibly have, I don't know, done something to Barry to maybe help? Sure. But again, that goes into more depth detail of, well, this could have been different, and Frost's powers don't work this way, but Barry's powers work this way, so why can't Frost? And then we learned when Frost died that they had Cold Fusion on standby in case something ever happened to Frost. Maybe Barry could have taken that, like injected the Cold Fusion into him, and then went out and fought Deathstorm and survived. I mean, who the hell knows? I mean, at the end of the day, I think the best ending we got was the ending that we got. So I don't really get the hate around Frost helping Deathstorm. Was really explained why they're doing that, and also why it wasn't Barry. I do want to point out, again, Barry still did stuff. We didn't see him sit on the sidelines 24/7. Like I said, he ran his own lightning, he did all these different things up to try to fight Deathstorm. Even when he was that flame, that black fire, I do genuinely believe that there was no other way to have Barry defeat Deathstorm unless it was like through some random writing plot that just happened for Barry to defeat Deathstorm. Again, with the exception of maybe a Lantern ring, the Blue Lantern ring, which again, never introduced in the Arrowverse, so that really wouldn't have worked the way that you guys want it to. And then the other way was probably Barry to take Cold Fusion, but again, interacting with Barry's Speed Force, would that even work? And also not to mention, Barry's not a Cold Fusion meta. He's a Flash. He has super speed. You can argue his Speed Force aura should have protected him from that fire, but we saw that literally not work like an episode earlier. So, I don't genuinely think there was any possible way for Barry to defeat Deathstorm. I genuinely believe that the ending that we got was the best thing we could possibly ever get, and that's what we got. So without further ado, that's my opinions on Deathstorm and whether I think it's a good villain or not. Thank you for watching. Have a good day. Have a good night. Stay safe. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye, guys.